Okay, welcome back. Week number 5, video number 3. And in this video, we're going to look at one particular note-taking strategy, the Cornell method. And we're going to talk about it, and I'm going to show you an example of how to use the Cornell method. So the Cornell method of note-taking was a note-taking system that was designed way back in the 1940s by a guy named Walter Pock, who was an education professor at Cornell University. And Cornell University is one of those big Ivy League universities. It's like Harvard, one of those big fancy universities in the States. And he came up with this format because students were having a hard time recalling information. And he decided that, you needed to put a system in place. It's been around since the 1940s, way before any of us were born. And it's lasted for a reason, because it's a really, really good system. What it is a systematic format for condensing and organizing notes. Okay, so that's all it is. But there's some type of magic with it that helps you to improve your recall and improve your understanding. And in fact, there was a study in 2010 that found that Cornell note-taking is of added benefit where students need to synthesize and apply learned knowledge. And that's exactly what you're doing in nursing, in dental assisting, in personal support work, in any of those medical fields. You're taking information, synthesizing it in your head, and then applying it. So it's a great system. It takes a bit of time to get adjusted to using it, but it really does pay off. I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm just going to open up a PDF file here, and I've given you this PDF. This is a Cornell example. So the Cornell system looks a little bit different. You can do it on plain paper, or you can do it in a fancy template like the one that I've used here. You do as many pages as are required. So I'm only giving you one page here as a sample, but you can see when this person actually took the notes, they actually took 7 pages of notes. They were maybe reading an article, they maybe were reading a chapter, and they used the Cornell method system. So the Cornell method is split up into 3 parts. Okay, so there's this part here where my cursor is moving, which is called the record section. There's this part here, which is called the recall section over on the side. And then there's a part down at the bottom, which is called the summary section. Okay, so it's a 3-part system, the Cornell method. The first part is the record section. Okay, so again, the area here where I'm moving the cursor. And this is where, in point form, you record the main points in what you're reading. So you can see this person, if you read this, you can see this person was reading an article or a chapter about bipolar disorder. And so they were including information as they were reading. They were, again, putting it in their own words. They were doing stuff like including numbers, okay, or percentages. You can see also they're using arrows, so they're using some of those visual markers that I talked about. They're not trying, okay, to get it down in full sentences. They really are just using point form, okay? So the idea is you read through an article, or you read through a chapter, and you take point form notes of the main points as you're going in as many pages as is required to get all of those main points down. So obviously, the longer the article, the more pages of notes you're going to end up with, okay? Once you've taken all of your notes for the whole article, then the Cornell method says you sit down just with those notes and you look at them, and what you try to look for is pattern. Okay, so you look at what you've written down and you try to find ways to group or pattern information. So take a look at the first few things that this person has written down here. Bipolar affects 2% of the Canadian population. 62% of women, 38% of men. Can affect children. Affects all classes and types of people. All of these points directly relate to one another, right? And they actually answer the question, who gets bipolar disorder? Okay? So the pattern here, right, is who bipolar affects or who gets it. So in the recall section, what this person has done is they've asked themselves a Jeopardy style question, okay, that is answered by the content that they've written over on the record side. So the idea is then when you take a look at your page of notes later on, the only thing you need to do is take a look at the recall section to find the part of the article or the piece of information that you're looking for, and then the answer is over on the side. You can use questions here. You can also use keywords. Okay, it really comes down to personal preference. And you do this through the entire package of your notes. So if you've taken 7 pages or 10 pages, you go through and you look for pattern, okay, in the notes. And then over on the side, okay, what you do is you either write a question down or you write a keyword down. A lot of times students say too, just as an aside, if they use this system with their textbooks, that oftentimes they can predict what exam questions will be. Okay, because exam questions are always all about pattern and about finding patterns in information. So that's just like an extra bonus, right, if you were to decide to use this system for all of your stuff. The third part of the Cornell system is the summary section down at the bottom. And the summary section is, I think, personally, where all the magic happens. For the Cornell method, the summary section is designed as a couple of sentences that are written to summarize the content of the entire page of notes. Okay, so again, if you were doing 7 pages of notes, you'd have 7 little summary sections there at the bottom. And the idea is to write these sentences in your own words to summarize exactly what you've written down, okay, in the record section. So you can see, for example, this person has written bipolar affects 2% of the Canadian population. Bipolar is a mental illness where a patient moves between depression and mania. Bipolar can be treated with medication and/or therapy. So they have, in a very short version, summarized the entire content of this page. The reason I say I think this is where the magic comes from is because I think this part actively engages your brain. So in trying to come up with your own sentences to summarize your page of notes, what you're doing is you're forcing your brain to come up with the main points and to recall those without just simply copying from the article. Okay, so again, remember, you're aiming to paraphrase here. You're aiming to put all of this in your own words. And then, right, you have some summary sentences that go over the entire content of notes. So if you're reviewing your notes, you don't need to look at the entire page. You can simply look at the summary section at the bottom to get an idea. I'm going to give you the template for the Cornell method so that you can use it on the computer if you wish to, or you can print it out. But like I said, you don't need to do anything fancy. You can simply do this on regular loose leaf paper just by drawing some lines on there to mark out the different sections. It really is a great system. I encourage you to give it a try. I have found that it really, really works. And a lot of my former students have told me that they really like it. And in fact, they go on and they use it all the time, even beyond COM 1160. You can also look at other note-taking strategies. So there are other strategies that are out there. You can do a quick Google search on note-taking strategies to see if you don't like the Cornell system or you find it's not working for you. There are other strategies that you can investigate. The Cornell is probably the most popular, the most widely used one, but it doesn't mean that there aren't other good ones that are out there. Okay, so in our next video, we're actually going to start talking about writing summaries and using all of the skills that we've talked about, the reading skills, the note-taking skills, and pulling it all together into a final product. We'll talk to you in the next video.